Yeah, so we are discussing REST API today, and the context of discussion is we want to study this REST API for our IoE deployment, for our IoE deployments. Okay, so in this Internet of Everything deployments, how this REST API will function, that we are going to see today. So, what is REST? REST is representational state transfer. Okay, that is the I'll say that how we call or how we uh, refer to is as, okay, representational state transfer. But why it is actually a part of our this IoE studies? That small brief we'll do. Actually, yesterday I discussed this thing at what you can say at a brief, but today we are starting with this lecture and we will discuss this. So prior technologies were there. So idea is that I'll say that I'll show you what. So suppose this is a laptop, for example. I am working on this laptop. Okay, and there is some program running here. So maybe adding number a plus b. This is simple thing. So what happens that if a user is there and runs this program adding a plus b, so this program runs on this laptop RAM and OS RAM they handle, and then CPU is there. CPU will fetch data from this OS, and this program is running in this memory space. This program will be accessed. It's a simple thing. Okay, as we know, maybe C, C++ or Java program kind of thing. But now think of something like this. Okay, the objective is a very raw, this understanding layman's language I am talking about. I am having another laptop, maybe your laptop. You are sitting at your home. The screen can be seen here. Okay, and my laptop is here, and you have written a program to find maximum of two numbers, a comma b max. Okay, so what I want is that I don't want to write this code which is running on your laptop. What I will do, I want to consume this thing. I want to call this process. And for example, suppose now this laptop is connected to maybe LAN. This is, we will say that we are both at our college. So hub, then I am having this our switch, then gateway, whatever, and then again it is something switch, then hub, and then it is coming to your laptop. So maybe my at 192.168.0.1, and you are having 192.168.1.22, for example. This is your IP address. So I want to run a process which is at this IP address. So if this thing is to be somehow it is to be implemented, people thought of this thing and they proposed various technology. They proposed various technologies. So how I can remotely access the memory of a typical machine, and in that memory there are technically accessing memory, rather than I'll say that access a process or methods which are defined on some remote machines. So this is the problem in front of us. Yes. So this user, this me, wanting to run a code which is on the remote machine. So that's why these technologies are there, prior technologies. What are the technologies? Remote procedure call. This is in Java, Java RPC. We say that. Then enterprise Java beans, EJBs are there, and in that Corba architecture is a common object request broker architecture. So Corba architecture is there. Then component object model in .NET, that previous versions of .NET and Visual Studio they were having, rather than .NET I'll say Visual Studio. So that is VB, Visual Basic, Visual C Sharp, and before in that Visual Studio, I think VB6, VB7, VB6 was the almost final version. Visual Studio 6.0 by 97, 98 was there, and then .NET they introduced in 1999 kind of thing. So I don't know, I just roughly remember that. But yes, this before .NET, this Microsoft had this COM version, COM and DCOM. COM components object model to share this object like ActiveX files, and DCOM distributed component object model, so you can remotely access the objects and execute them. And then there is the RMI, remote method invocation, and in RMI we are having .NET remoting. In .NET we have this as .NET, we say that .NET remoting. And yes, these all a majority of these things are object oriented, and they use binary protocols. They use binary protocol. And then the object, this need or this urgency or objective or vision behind all these technologies somehow allow user to remotely access the methods or object. That is the thing. Okay. Then later on Microsoft came with this SOAP protocol, simple object access protocol, and service oriented architecture was there. So big applications, they were, yes, please mute yourself. ऋतुजा कदम म्यूट करा. The service oriented architecture, and what this SOA is actually, I'm not going to go in that much detail, but yes, we have to study this REST and SOA, and these two technology compare. We have to compare them. So the service oriented architecture, so we build enterprise application as a collection of services, and then we use these services plug to each other for bigger application scenario. Then web APIs are there. So this SOA, they are using service oriented, this simple object access protocol. Basically it is XML based protocol to exchange the data. And yes, it allowed user this SOA define the concept of web services. Beyond that, web services was again, they for a long time they have been promoted by Microsoft. .NET was one of initial, what you can say, programming architecture which supported web services, so that you could remotely create and instantiate these web services and consume that thing in your local programs. And then in REST API, yeah, so the REST API use HTTP. They use HTTP endpoints for providing a functionality which is similar to this RPC, Corba, COM, RMI kind of thing. Okay, and it is not object oriented. It is simple. You are providing the endpoints and we consume the endpoint kind of thing. And then obviously it needs the network infrastructure. TCP/IP HTTP protocol is there, which will be used for consumption of these services. So yes, this Java, this what your RPC, Corba, COM, they don't use what you can say HTTP. Rather, they have their own binary object oriented protocols, and they exchange data using that protocol. Procedure calls are there, and then network infrastructure they obviously they need, because you need to access methods on remote machines. And further, it was actually, I'll not say simplified, but uh, it was augmented. It was augmented for, no, what you can say, SOAP and then REST. So let us move ahead. I don't know how many of you students you actually have implemented this RPC. So I think Java RPC is one of the lab experiment that you might have gone through, or you might have explored that lab experiment. But this is actually what actually nowadays we will try to, you can say, implement in our smart city applications. So I gave example that, no, yesterday some student from this class only, they were asking whether you are having this GSM model. It's no model, GSM model. GPR is this model, isn't it? So they want to implement SMS sending capacity to your node MCU. So I will just say I have not gone through the problem as it is. They might have some detailing on that, but what I roughly understand is that, suppose is there some node MCU or Arduino is there, and there is some sensor, you are actually sensing some physical parameter, and based on certain condition, you want to send SMS. So for that, then you need to connect one SIM card, and then on that SIM card, maybe suppose the Reliance Jio is there, and then this will send message using your Reliance Jio SIM card, and then you will have to interface this no GSM module, GSM modem, I will say, to this node MCU using TXRX lines. This is what you will have to do. It cost, and first of all you have to pay for SIM card. Then this is costing around 1,500 rupees, and then further program other things are there. Now what is the simple how REST will help you here? There are SMS gateways. Okay, so there are SMS gateways. So I generally I have to use this SMS 24 gateway. So these SMS gateways, they allow you to send SMS by simply, and they are having REST API. RESTful API interface is there. So in your Node MCU, you have to simply create a local instance of that REST API object and call that object. That's all. So and you need to have internet connection, but you should have Wi-Fi connectivity. Once your Node MCU is connected to internet, you can consume this REST API with your credential. You can send the message. Only thing is that it will go through their service centers. Idea is that. So same functionality you can do using RESTful APIs here. So there you might come across RESTful APIs. So let us. So these are the things that one application where in your IoT deployment you will need REST APIs for what you can say performing certain tasks. Other thing can be where you want to, as I told, no, if suppose some sensor data is there and you want to perform certain kind of no anomaly detection analysis and then trigger something. So for that purpose, the complex programming, complex storage, and things are required. So what you will be doing rather than simply no making that thing on your local node, that is node MCU, which is very constrained. You can use either cloud-based service which is having RESTful API interface, and then you can simply push data to that service. That service will do the rest of the thing, remaining things. Not REST means RESTful API. I want to say. So there means and simply it for that remote web service invocation, you just need to understand HTTP protocol. That is the only requirement. Where now this Node MCU easily understands that. We have seen MQTT and COAP, but yes, they in their protocol stack they can very well communicate using HTTP. Okay. Yeah. So here that's same thing I just discussed here. Client and web API is there, and then this web API, this Node MCU, I told that you want to perform certain analytics. So I'm here they are mentioning certain clients. So what you will do, you will call this API, REST API or this normal condition they have said, and then this here on this cloud you are performing this database storage, database connectivity kind of thing. Okay. So yes, they and other thing is that programming. What you can say platforms. So sorry, the programming platform. So here you can see this client may be running like Node MCU, or no, it will be running on Windows. Then APIs will be running on your Linux or no CentOS kind of thing. You might have this they or simple your instances of your what you can say. Sorry, simple instances of your no Amazon machines, Amazon EC2 instances are there, and that is immaterial. Just if they are having suppose API interface, we can simply consume the service. Okay, we are able to consume using this API, these commands. Okay, so that is referred to as web services. It's a collection of standards and protocol that application and system use for exchanging data. So they may be talking on using XML. Then majority of web services they use XML for data exchange. XML based. Because why XML? Because XML is interoperable and interoperable. So Windows client and in Linux server is there. Both can exchange data using XML. XML is open source data description language and extensible markup language. It has got lots of applications. So yes, This XML self-explanatory, self-describing language is there. Self-describing tags are there. So using that thing, this XML parsing can be done on any machine. It is platform independent and hence interoperable, and data can be exchanged over internet without having common platform. Okay. The OS independent is there. Here you can see this OS independent. This programming web service is, and that could be written in any programming language and is web service web OS independent. Why? Because at backend they use XML or its variant. Maybe JSON, JSONs are there. They are actually derived from XML or parallel to XML only. Okay, here this I just described this thing. Application which is built on a PHP running on Linux server can communicate with Android application built using Java and running on Android operating system. Why? Because both of them can parse XML. Okay. So website services are written in any of these programming languages, but their communication protocols are XML based protocols. Okay. What is REST? So REST is something which will provide you additional to the web services. So representational state transfer, okay, and it is a stateless architecture. Asynchronous architecture is there, okay. So client server based communication is there. It provides similar functionality, but additional characteristic. Many additional characteristics are there, and that we are going to explore. Hmm. So what is RESTful? Okay, so RESTful architecture. So client server architecture it allows. So there, when the REST API and REST architecture is there, we want to consume RESTful APIs. There will be one client which will consume this REST API. It will make a call, REST API call, and there will be server which will have this REST interface, and this REST interface will be called by this client. Hmm. So here, so client and server, front end, back end, or typically front end, back end is a generalized one. So we can have any type of operation, not necessarily only web based. So calculation, process, methods, you can build on REST API and they can be consumed. So yes, there is no data storage is there during the processing of the request transfer. The state of session should be saved at the client end. Client will decide how the session is starting and ending. Server will just respond to the query, and this client have capability to store the response in the cache, and this allows small capacity client to consume or talk with what you can say complex API servers. That doesn't matter. Just simply you should have the REST API endpoint. That's all. So what this REST API endpoints we'll discuss if maybe in coming lectures. But today we are going to discuss the theory part. Yeah. So RESTful API, RESTful web services, okay, implemented using HTTP protocol. So yes, remember this thing. This client and server they talk using HTTP, and the principles of REST it uses this HTTP methods get, put, post, delete. That detail will come in coming slide. Okay, in the next part of today's lecture or maybe the session which are coming. And yeah, as I mentioned, this collection of resources represented in the standardized form. I told you XML they use. Why XML? Because self-describing, open source. So there is no constraint on who can talk in XML. So interoperable, that feature XML can impart in your applications. Hmm. So it can be any valid internet media type provided valid hypertext standard. So yes, XML is the essence. XML HTTP will give you power to be running on internet, running over internet TCP/IP protocol. XML will give you ability to be consumed by various type of devices. Heterogeneous heterogeneous composition is allowed when you are having this REST API in deployment. So you can have this Node MCU, Arduino, Raspberry Pi program running in C Sharp, Java, C++, and they're consuming. So what programming language is at the back end of this REST API? That is immaterial. Only RESTful interface is there. That's all. Just give me the endpoint. I will consume the process. REST job is of this REST API framework. So yes, various applications are possible. Mobile applications, cloud-based services you can program, partner application, cloud resources sharing, storage. Your MongoDB APIs are there. MongoDB database, this online database, they use RESTful APIs mainly. Wherever you will find that interoperability and this web resources are consumed, RESTful API forms the major part of this architecture. Yeah, so request and response model is there. So this request will be done by this client, and this request format are REST, XML, remote procedure call, or simple object access protocol, or this RESTful API response, REST, XML RPC, simple object access protocol, JavaScript object notification, and hypertext processor, that is PHP. So these response formats are available. So why RESTful APIs? So in IoT, we want small capacity client to do big things, and these big things are done by big machines like web servers. So they will provide you this REST API interface or the methods which are running on web servers, and client will simply consume that thing using REST API. Okay, but this is written here: performance, scalability, simplicity, modifiability, visibility, profitability, availability of the operation. It is all provided by this REST. So it will enable our IoT nodes to do big things over the internet. Idea is that. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, REST is a way of accessing web services. Okay, web services on the web servers, and it does not require what you can say complex protocol. Either HTTP or SOAP protocols are there, and it is interoperable. Hmm. Then more widely used than SOAP. SOAP is almost now outdated. It is used in enterprise application, but for this IoT applications where no mainly either lots of no programmers are there at the world at different end, they want to develop their own applications, so they prefer REST APIs. They prefer REST APIs because no, it, it is very simple, flexible, less documentation required, and plug and play kind of architecture is there. Hmm. Dependency is not there in case if you have this REST API. Okay. So yes, that way REST to fetch or give something info from web service. It is simple as HTTP GET or HTTP POST. That's why no additional framework, no additional application is required, or no additional dependency or the library you need to install. Simply, if you are able to understand or talk using HTTP, you can exchange the data. Okay. So yes, it can give output in CSV, JSON, or RSS kind of uh, data standard. This data description formats, they are okay. REST API can use that thing for data exchange. Okay, and interoperable. That is just you can see REST API simple architecture. Here you are having this your app server load balance. Here REST API interface, it can talk on HTTP, it can understand HTTP command, and then you can say delete, put, get, post. HTTP methods can be used by your client applications, this Android application, iPhone application, browser applications. So JSON XML based data exchange format, they will convey their command using HTTP methods, and server will provide the execution. Yeah. So simple object access protocol and REST. Here you can see the protocol stack, how these layers are there: application layer, endpoint, URI. URIs are there. So this REST API URI will be something like this thing, no? Maybe HTTPS, and then maybe the add member, or maybe myweb.com/add member, and then there will be kind of how you are going to pass the parameters, maybe int a, int b, related whatever this documentation. So typically this resource URI will be there, that I want to say. It will be having this how to invoke the method or how to get the method using resource URI, and that's why HTTP GET, HTTP POST are the get and post, put and delete methods are there. They can be used with this resource heavy resource URI, and then this data is JSON or XML compatible. I will say that. And just here WSDL compatible, web service description language, and WSDL compatible SOAP packets, and they will consume the application. So you can see that REST and this SOAP, they are having similar architecture, but this is more flexible and accepted by the what you can say common people, common users. Yeah, so this is kind of comparison. You can say in very old times, so we have simple static websites used to be there. So HTML, HTTP protocol, HTML, and in web server used to render the pages. Then web service come, and you could consume the methods on this web server using this they web service description language Visual and SOAP compatible webs. Then there used to be repository, then find the web service and consume the web service. So this interactive dynamic web service programming using SOAP and XML. Okay, SOAP architecture is there. And then here you can see in 2007 RESTful APIs are there. Here web service we have seen Visual web service description language, and you can define the web services and consume that web service using this. Here web application description language is the WADL, and you can use this framework to program these web services and then provide what you can say talk to this web service using HTTP and XML standards and consume. So this is the architecture. Remember this. Like, what is the difference between RESTful web services and your RESTful APIs and web services? So Visual is there, VADL is there, WDL is there, and it is having SOAP as underlying key protocol, which is allowing you to invoke these web services. Here we are having HTTP, which will invoke the web services, and WDL is used. So similar but more acceptable architecture these RESTful web services have. So yes, some of this Twitter REST APIs, Facebook REST APIs, over translate REST APIs. Majority of the things now you will see these RESTful APIs are there. They are working. So yes, here you can see this simple SOAP versus REST. Okay, REST is like a postcard. Simply put the address, lightweight, and it will go consume the process and come back. SOAP is like using envelope. So we are client is they want to do something to data, so we have to add SOAP header, SOAP standards, and then it becomes compatible with SOAP compatible packet, and then it will be sent to server, and server will execute this thing. Here nothing, simple HTTP best request, and you are done. You can consume the web service. So simplicity is there, and that because of this thing, it is preferred in IoT. RESTful play these APIs, they play key role in IoT. Yeah. So here you can see the SOAP sender, SOAP receiver. So it has got SOAP header, SOAP body, then SOAP envelope, and then HTTP envelope is there. And when the response is also coming, so technically in the SOAP, HTTP is only carrying the data, but because of SOAP standard, they are having this. No, this process can be remotely called. So here this another what you can say yeah, graphical representation can be seen. So data SOAP standard, and then you become the SOAP packet, and then it can be understood by server. In the REST API, simple client can directly pass the data using HTTP. Okay. So yes, you can see this SOAP envelope, then message block, SOAP body, SOAP header, and then this thing additional things are there. When it goes on, you are from one client to other client. So your machine node one to node two. So this initially now they want to talk with SOAP. What goes actually on the internet is the your HTTP, and then at receiver end it will be removing the headers, and then it will be consuming that thing. Yeah. So SOAP versus REST protocols. There are some things are common. There are some things are what you can say separate, totally separate. So both of them they need network, but it is REST is internet aligned architecture. Okay, and does not require a proxy representation based on resource access. And SOAP is message level encryption is there, routing is there, enterprise application is there, reliable messaging, and based on action. And both of them are for remote procedure call kind of applications, remote resource access, and both of them are interoperable. So yes, REST is more rich and interoperability. SOAP has got less rich. Application point, internet application, and here you can see I told you SOAP is for mainly enterprise application. So some things comparison points are there. We'll do that thing. we'll revise that thing in the next lecture because it takes time. Let me stop. Thank you all.